The Godfather 1972. Heard, unheard stories and interesting facts about this movie. IMDb 8.9/10. The only comment Robert Duvall made about his performance was that he wished they would have made a better hairpiece for his character. The film's opening scene, a 3-minute zoom-out of Amerigo Bonacera and Don Corleone, was achieved with a computer-controlled zoom lens, which had earlier been used in Silent Running, 1972. The film was set and shot in New York City, at over 100 locations. Originally, the entire film was to be shot in the Hollywood backlots, in order to save production costs. However, production designer Dean Tavoularis threatened to add 2 stories to each backlot building in order to replicate the look of New York City, and the studio relented, and allowed for shooting in New York City. Mario Puzo modeled the character of Don Vito Corleone on New York City mob bosses Joe Profaci and Vito Genovese. Many of the events in his novel are based on actual incidents that occurred in the lives of Profaci, Genovese, and their families. Puzo based Don Vito's personality on his own mother's. According to Albert S. Ruddy's assistant, Betty McCart, Ruddy was warned by police that the mafia was following his car. Ruddy would switch cars with McCart in an effort to lose them. One night, McCart found her car with the windows shot out and a note that read, "Shut down the movie or else." According to Francis Ford Coppola in the DVD commentary, in the scene where Captain McCluskey confronts Michael in front of the hospital, the officer who balks at arresting Michael, "He's clean, Captain. He's a war hero," is NYPD Detective Sonny Grosso, one of the detectives made famous by his involvement in breaking the French Connection case. During pre-production, Francis Ford Coppola shot his own unofficial screen tests with Al Pacino, James Caan, Robert Duvall, and Diane Keaton at his house in San Francisco. Robert Evans was unimpressed by them, and insisted that official screen tests be held. The studio spent $420,000 on the screen tests, but in the end, the actors and actresses Coppola originally wanted were hired. Al Pacino made just $35,000 for starring in the film, the same as James Caan and Diane Keaton, and $1,000 less than Robert Duvall. However, having made the runaway hit Serpico, 1973, Pacino managed to command a $600,000 salary for The Godfather Part II, 1974, as well as a 10% cut of the movie's adjusted gross income. Radio personality Howard Stern has said that he would gladly have any cast member of this film as his guest, and they can show up at his studio unannounced. Though over the years, cast members such as Robert Duvall and James Caan were pre-scheduled guests, his "just show up" policy was never taken up until Johnny Russo arrived one day. Stern immediately had him escorted into his studio, even though he was in the midst of other guests at the time, and interviewed him. During filming, Francis Ford Coppola complained about the station wagon that picked him up, so he and Robert Evans made a bet that if the film made $50 million, Paramount Pictures would spring for a new car. As the film's grosses climbed, Coppola and George Lucas went car shopping, and bought a Mercedes-Benz 600 stretch limousine, instructing the salesman to send the bill to Paramount Pictures. The car appears in the opening scene of American Graffiti, 1973. Before the film was in production, Paramount Pictures had been going through an unsuccessful period. Their latest mafia-based movie, The Brotherhood, 1968, had been a box office bomb. In addition, the studio had usurped their budget for their recent films. Darling Lily, 1970, Paint Your Wagon, 1969, and Waterloo, 1970. The budget for the film was originally $2.5 million, but as the book grew in popularity, and Coppola argued for a larger budget, the budget was raised to $6 million. Paramount Pictures wanted the film to appeal to a wide audience, and threatened Francis Ford Coppola with a violence coach to make the film more exciting. Coppola added a few more violent scenes to keep the studio happy. The scene in which Connie smashes crockery after finding out Carlo has been cheating was added for this reason. When Marlon Brando won the Best Actor Oscar for this movie, he sent Sacheen Littlefeather, Marie-Louise Cruz, to represent him at the awards ceremonies. The presenters of the award were Roger Moore and Liv Ullmann. When Moore offered the statuette to Littlefeather, she snubbed him and proceeded with her speech about the film industry's mistreatment of Native Americans. 445. Although the dark photography of Gordon Willis was eventually copied by many other films, when the developed film came back from the lab, Paramount Pictures executives thought the look was a mistake. They ordered a different look, but Willis and Francis Ford Coppola refused. Marlon Brando based some of his performance on Al Lettieri, who plays Sollozzo. While preparing for On the Waterfront, 1954, Brando became friendly with Lettieri, whose relative was a real-life mafioso. Brando and Lettieri would later co-star in The Night of the Following Day, 1969. Lettieri also helped Brando prepare for his Godfather role by bringing him to his relative's house for a family dinner. According to Alex Rocco, he originally auditioned for the role of Al Neri, but Francis Ford Coppola insisted that he play Mo Green instead. Rocco, an Italian-American, felt that he would not be able to play a person of Jewish descent. According to Rocco, Coppola told him, "The Italians do this, and he punches his fingers up. And the Jews do this, and his hands extended, the palm flat. Greatest piece of direction I ever got. I've been playing Jews ever since." James Caan hung out with various disreputable characters, in order to better understand the underworld lifestyle. Mario Puzo was very proud of one particular line from the novel, "A lawyer with a briefcase can steal more than 100 men with guns." He was adamant that it be used in the film, but Marlon Brando felt it was too preachy, and it was excised. The slow camera movement that opens the film, which starts with a close-up of Bonacera's face and ends up behind Vito's head, takes more than 2 minutes to complete. This was created with a recently invented computer-timed lens, which could be programmed to zoom for specific time increments. There are actually very few zoom shots in the picture, as Francis Ford Coppola and Gordon Willis eschewed them for dramatic effect. The scene between Tom and Sollozzo was shot in an abandoned diner. The snowstorm when they exit the diner was real. Frankie Avalon and Vic Damone, both established and experienced singers, auditioned for the role of Johnny Fontaine. Francis Ford Coppola was most impressed with Damone, and gave the role to him, but Al Martino was cast by the producers, and used his organized crime connections to ensure he kept the part. Ironically, Fontaine sings, "I Have But One Heart," which was Damone's first hit song. Francis Ford Coppola had a background in theater, and used it to prepare the script. He would take pages out of the book and paste them into a notebook, which gave him enough room to make detailed notes on the scenes he wanted to use, what he had to do to make them work, and what pitfalls to avoid. One example. Italians who would talk like a diss. James Caan was at first considered to play first Tom Hagen, for what he actually auditioned, and then Michael Corleone, before being eventually cast as Sonny Corleone. When Sonny beats up Carlo, a truck in the background and a wooden box on the sidewalk are strategically placed to hide anachronistic objects in the background. The studio originally wanted to scrap the now iconic Puppet Strings logo, which was first created by graphic designer S. Neil Fujita for the novel's release, with Mario Puzo's name above the title for the movie release. but Francis Ford Coppola insisted on keeping it, because Puzo co-wrote the script with him. Production began on March 23, 1971, but Marlon Brando worked on the film for 35 days between April 12 and May 28, so he could honor his commitment to Last Tango in Paris, 1972. The character of Hollywood mogul Jack Woltz was patterned after Warner Brothers chief Jack L. Warner. His personality was based on MGM head Louis B. Mayer, who was a great racing aficionado, and owned a racing stable. Mayer abandoned the activity, reportedly after his son-in-law William Getz, who was his partner in the stable, got involved with the mafia and fixed a race.